Boo. We're waiting all morning. We're waiting all morning to do that. Happy Halloween. Tuesday, I don't have to look at my calendar today. Tuesday, October 31st. The day it snowed in Minneapolis, where I live. Snowed, well, late last night into the morning. Snow on the trees. I mean, this, for children, this is like the high holiday. It is Halloween and the first snow. And kids around here are just losing their minds in all the most positive ways. Happy Halloween, Rob. How are things in somewhere snuggled outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas? No, out of Springdale, Arkansas. Somewhere outside of Springdale, Arkansas. Yeah. It's been a while since I've done the Springdale, Arkansas reference. So
yeah,
I feel pretty good. I even remember that.
Yeah, it's cold. It's cold. We did not get snow, but we had our first hard frost overnight, and which led me to say to Vanessa this morning, the frost is on the pumpkins, which is, I think, the only line to that poem from third grade that I remember. But it's book character day at Whimsy's elementary school.
Like
which means all the kids
get away from Halloween language and say, like, dress up as a book character and promote reading at the same time.
Exactly. And, which means all the kids basically just dress up in whatever their Halloween costume is and, retrofit some kind of book to it.
Wow.
You got your little Spider-Man outfit. You can find a Spider-Man book in the library, or whatever. So, but Whimsy is not one of those kids.
Oh,
Whimsy went as
she
went as Joe from Little Women.
Do you have to search that up for the particular outfit style?
It's helpful that her mother runs a vintage store on Etsy and sells stuff because she was able to make it happen. But it's mind-boggling to me. We've come a long, long way from the garbage bag costumes with the mask with the one little very delicate little piece of elastic with those had the little metal pieces on the end, and it would go through the holes. Remember that?
It would pull your face back when America was great.
Yes.
Yeah, I totally remember that. Yeah.
And I never did I think when I was a kid that I would someday continue to be trick-or-treating, taking my kids trick-or-treating, because my parents never took me trick-or-treating.
Were they opposed to it? I know you were raised in a religious sensibility.
No, they were not opposed to it, shockingly. But it was like a night of it was just a free-for-all. It was you
kids
get a pillowcase and
parents were nowhere to be found.
We're Gen X, Doug. This is how
totally.
we were raised.
Oh my gosh, totally. We should do a whole just a Gen X approach to life thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Did you have a favorite Halloween outfit that you remember dressing up in?
Not particularly. I remember we had maybe the encyclopedia was too expensive for us. I'm not sure. So we had Childcraft books. I don't know if you remember those.
No.
But we had the Childcraft books that would have like, I don't know. They were like an encyclopedia, but there was a Halloween section and they would have like suggestions on making Halloween outfits. And, one of them was always like the hobo, which is just, that feels like that's a thing that has gone by the wayside, right? The hobo with the stick.
Honestly, I don't even know you can say that. I can just see people just clicking off, unsubscribing.
Am I getting us kicked off of YouTube right now?
I mean,
for using some kind of slur.
Unbelievable, you.
Yeah. I would typically
the bag with the stick and the little white bag tied on the end of it. Yeah, sort of. Yeah, hitting the road like. Yeah, with a guitar strapped on your shoulder and your little sack.
Yeah. Loved Halloween though.
Absolutely.
My favorite was taking my pillowcase and using that and getting it filled up and then coming home, dumping it out and going back for more.
Wow. Yeah, for sure. Because it was so heavy. You're like, I can't keep carrying this. I've got a pit stop back at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have to do the thing where if you got any fruit, you would have to let it sit out and for a couple of days before you could eat it?
Uh, for some reason, there was all this fear that there were razor blades in
Razor
apples.
blades in the apples.
And
Yep.
even as a kid, I was like, if you cut an apple with a razor blade and stick, there's going to be a big hole in the apple. No
Yes.
one is sliding a razor blade into an
Yeah,
apple. Like these myths that were
I
around,
know.
and
Yeah. And
as if some
nobody's putting drugs in the candy. Like,
no,
they're just not.
no.
Oh, it's so
Uh,
funny. Can I give you a hot take? I'll give you a Halloween hot take. I got a Halloween hot take for you.
please.
That's not our hot
No,
takes.
I'm just cheering. I'm just cheering you
Yeah,
on before you get to hot take.
I got a Halloween hot take.
Okay.
You know what I
Thank
think
you.
is
Yeah.
one of the worst things that churches do?
Trunk or treat.
Trunk or treat.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes,
Is that
get
a
out
church
of
thing?
yes, get
Oh,
out
it
of your
is.
dang parking lot and get into your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need you to have some like
Hot take.
there we go. And there's my hot take. We don't need you to have like some safe place
Right.
where you can all gather yourselves and pull yourselves away from your community. No, your neighbors, the people you're supposed to love, are coming to your door.
Right.
And the best way to love them is to, I don't know, have good candy to give them,
top,
not the
top, top
not
quality.
have like the light off because you've gone to your church parking lot for your insular like trunk or treats at
Hot take.
churches. Hate it. Hate it.
Rob Ryerse, hating,
Hate it.
hating on trunk or treating. I have seen people doing trunk or treating like the weekend before Halloween. So like not in competition with, but
Oh,
really it's seen as an alternative to it. Like, hey, we already did that. You can just stay
yeah.
home tonight and we will,
Yeah.
have the popcorn as a family. When I have two memories of Halloween that are etched into my mind, and somehow
Yeah.
in some karmic way, I feel like they're related. Second grade, September 17th, I fell out of a tree about 60 feet, bounced to the ground, broke my arm, and shattered my right femur. That put me in traction for a while, and then a body cast. This is what they would do. How old are you in second grade? Six years old? 7?
7 or 8.
If I got out of 7 years old. So it's 1973, somewhere in there, right? Body cast from my chest down to my right toe. I'm at home. I live in an apartment complex at the time. And these young, like college, maybe post-college guys lived in our apartment building. They knew that I was unable to go trick-or-treating. So they dressed up and had a picture of me and went trick-or-treating on my behalf. I'm still emotionally moved by this. And I got 4 bags, 4
That's
pillowcases
amazing.
full of candy.
That's amazing.
Then I get a chance to share them at school with all the other kids. It was just the best because I had to be tutored at home. Like, it's in a body cast for 3 months. I mean, honestly, this is why my right hip's a problem to this day. Then 6th grade, we're out trick or treating. We got a full suitcase bag or a full pillowcase bag. We're just rounding the corner, going to head back home to drop it off. And these con kids that live up around the way, I know who it was. They were like 4 years older. Come busting out, me and Steve, grab our bags and steal them. Stole.
No.
And I still have, like, I can feel it. I can feel it about that. So somehow, once I learned about, the cruelty of karma, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I got all loaded up in 2nd grade, and then 6th grade, someone comes and takes it all away from you. Yeah. That's why I want to be a Christian and not live in a karmic world where it's just payback for some,
That's right.
where everything's got to balance out. You get a little something and then you lose a little. I don't want that world.
I don't think that's what karma means, but okay.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Sometimes
pay a little attention. So,
have I ever told you my absolute worst trick or treating story?
I hope not, because I would feel like I have something to look forward to now.
Yeah. So Vanessa and I got married when we were 21 years old. A couple months after our wedding, um, someone it came to be Halloween time, and someone in our relationship might have suggested, you know what we should do? We should go trick or treating.
Someone in your relationship? You
Yeah,
mean
that'd
you
be
mean one
me.
of the two? Okay, I thought it was maybe another person. Like you had a
No, no,
thing
no,
where
no.
it's
It
like
might be me going like,
we
you know
we
what
have
we should do? We should go trick or treating. So we're
sure,
like, but we're
sure,
21 years old. We're living in downtown Scranton, Pennsylvania, and so we're like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna dress all in black, and then we had a couple of masks, like these kind of acting, theater masks that Vanessa had from
okay.
being in theater. So we'll put on those, and like we'll just go, and um, it'll be fine. So we head out to trick or treat, and you get up the courage to go up to the first door, because like this is a weird thing that you're doing
Sure.
as an
Right.
adult, going to people's house and getting
Yeah.
candy that's meant for
Right.
children. So we go to the door, and we ring the doorbell, and we stand there, and they open up the door and say, "Come on in." Come on in. What? So we step inside, and they say, "Well, what do you do?" Like, what do you mean? What do we do? What do you do in Scranton, Pennsylvania? Um,
Oh, they take it seriously.
you have to this is like, I don't know, some regional thing. You have to perform to get your candy. You can't just show up. Like
Stick your bag out.
you have to do a trick to get your treat. And
Wow.
we made it to, I think, 3 houses before we realized, like, oh, this is a thing. We're not doing this because we didn't want to like talk and give ourselves away as being adults.
Adults, yeah, just tall sixth graders.
Oh man, just the worst. The worst. We were trying to just incognito get a little bit of candy and head home, and instead we were invited into people's homes and deeply embarrassed because we had no idea what they were talking about when they said, "What do you do?"
When my
So
daughter
we
was in fifth grade, there was like a
all right.
school. Yeah, do a mime trick.
Mhm.
There was a school dress up party,
Yeah.
and we somehow were under the impression that it was an adult dress up party too, as the chaperones. So we show up. I can't remember what we were wearing. Something big, like maybe I was Herman Munster and Shelley was Lily, something like this, like outfits. And we're not really costume people, but we show up at the school fully decked out, and no other parents are dressed up. And it is to the horror
Amazing.
of our daughter, whose friends are all like,
Amazing.
"Why are your parents dressed up? Like, what are they doing? This is not for parents to dress." Just
Yep.
unloading. And we're like, "Oh, we're not going home. We're dressed up. We're gonna live it up." Yeah,
Amazing.
it can be a
Yes,
faux pas or two.
speaking of people who are dressed up when nobody else is, reminds me of my all-time favorite Halloween picture, um, which is a picture of Katie Porter dressed as Batwoman, um,
Yeah,
in
on
the
the house
halls of
floor.
Congress.
Yeah, yeah,
In the halls of Congress, the only member of Congress dressed up
totally.
in costume,
All
because
right.
she's the best.
Before we get off of Halloween, which now we've been at it for nearly 14 minutes, I saw this little bit of statistic here
Yeah.
about the Halloween candy that's most preferred in the country, and like so many other things in this country, there are regional variations that candy sellers keep track of. So
Hmm.
I know it's hard for people to see the entire screen, but if you Google like state candy, and this is from 2021, by the way, and in Arkansas, where you live, Rob, still
Yeah.
Arkansas, right?
Yeah.
Um, Jolly Rancher. The
Ah,
Jolly Rancher is the number one selling candy around
okay.
Halloween.
Okay.
I, maybe people like it, or maybe they honestly just think this is the cheapest way to give kids candy. These are the smallest little pieces we can get. You can give them 3 or 4, and dollar for
Ugh,
dollar.
ugh.
We're saving money. Where I live here, it's a Tootsie Pop.
Yeah, I like a Tootsie
Huh.
Pop.
I'm surprised because there's a regional candy maker here called Pearson's. They make the Pearson salted nut roll. I would have totally thought that would have been That would have been it. Well, you grew up in Pennsylvania, right?
I
In
grew up in
Pennsylvania, Ohio. Blow pop in Ohio.
Oh yeah, like a blow pop.
Blow pop
Mm-hmm.
in Ohio.
Yeah,
I know
what
we
about
have.
Pennsylvania?
I know. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. I forgot that's not where you grew up. Have we met in Florida, Alex? Reese's peanut butter cup, which I still think is the nation, probably all in all in the nation, number one. I mean,
yeah.
When somebody tripped and fell, and they got their chocolate and somebody else's peanut butter, and it created that
two great
candy.
tastes that go great together.
in California, Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, we should think of ourselves as like the Reese's peanut butter cup of political commentary.
Yeah.
Two great tastes. Two great tastes. They go great together. All right, Pennsylvania, no surprise, Hershey's Miniatures.
Yeah,
because it's the head of Hershey's. Where we have spent, I feel like maybe more than one Halloween. I haven't been home for Halloween in 5 years. This is the first time I've been home for Halloween.
You know, we were my Facebook memories a year ago on Halloween, Doug. We were in Pennsylvania looking at a billboard outside of Pittsburgh that we had placed. And then we drove over to Cleveland, where I got to attend a Cleveland Browns game on Halloween.
Oh, that was on Halloween.
And yeah, a year ago, watching the Cleveland Browns beat the Cincinnati Bengals in one of the best football experiences of my life.
Well, hey, congratulations. Hey, worst Halloween candies reported by candystore.com.
Yeah,
I don't know how they get to worst. What do you think number one is? Do you know already? Did you look at the graphic?
No, I can't.
We should let people.
Graphic.
Yeah, we should let people guess in the comments. Tell us what you think the worst one is. I think this is going to be fairly. I think it's going to be fairly obvious. I shouldn't say it. Well, no, totally should. Candy corn.
Yeah.
Have you heard Lewis's Black bit on candy corn? He's a comedian.
No.
Oh my gosh! Just Google today, just for the fun of it. Okay. Lewis Black on candy corn.
There was, when my kids were growing up, there was a maybe it was Nickelodeon or something. There was some TV network for kids that in the little brief station things between shows or commercials, they had a little thing where they would have a character who would sing, "I don't like candy corn. I just don't like candy corn." So anytime I think about candy corn, I hear that little jingle.
Yeah, it's for sure only popular because of its appearance, because it sits out. It's got the orange look. Mm-hmm. It's in the shape of corn. It just fits the deal. The 10th worst though is black licorice. So somehow candy corn is so much worse.
10th worst.
Yeah, 10th worst. All right.
Yeah.
Is that hey, here's another little piece of interesting stuff. The number of people in the United States who believe in ghosts has really gone up. Yeah, it's really gone up. It's 32% believe in ghosts overall. 19% aren't sure. In my book, Rob, that's the same thing. If you're not sure if there are ghosts, you believe in ghosts. Like the question shouldn't be, do you believe in them? The question should be, do you not believe in them? Right? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Ghosts aren't real, right?
Radio? Right. And I wonder how many people conflate this with afterlife. What do you think? Like, you think, I don't know. I just feel like there's something in this whole thing about ghosts. But by age, it changes a lot. 18 to 29. So we're not talking about children. We're talking about people who are somewhere near full brain development. 18 to 29-year-olds. 45% of that population. 35% of people 30 to 49. You get to the, later Gen Xers, the 50, it's down to 27. And 65-year-olds, the lowest number, 22%. The older people get, the less they believe in ghosts. I don't know if that's cultural or,
Yeah, I'd like to see these numbers side by side with, do you believe in aliens?
Or the moon landing, Rob. Or a number of other things that somebody may or may not believe in. Or the efficacy.
Yeah, all these things that are fake, right? We're talking about things that are fake. Ghosts, aliens, and the moon landing.
The efficacy of COVID vaccines. All the stuff. No, not just you. Even though I might be hinting that you could get into a long conversation with Rob about the moon landing. Hey, on the important,
Careful, Doug. You're going to get us kicked off of
yeah,
YouTube again.
yeah, totally. Hey, I'm trying to find the important one here. Um, on the important front, the war in Israel and Gaza is horrible.
Mm, yeah.
Um, and I know Halloween is not an international holiday, by the way. It's not celebrated everywhere. People don't do Halloween trick or treating and all this stuff. They have different days for different things. But if there was if you don't believe in ghosts, but you believe in hell, it's raining down on people in Gaza and it's horrible. And look, all wars finally end with people stopping the bombing so may we get to that sooner rather than later. And whatever else is supposed to be accomplished, could we please find other ways rather than dropping munitions on top of buildings and killing people? It's just, I don't know, 8,000 or more people in Gaza have been killed. 1,500 people or something in Israel killed on the attacks of October 7th. And it's just, it's just horrible. And I don't know. I have zero hot takes on this thing other than,
Yeah.
I'm glad people are paying attention now in this current age to the conditions of the Israel and Gaza. Like, I see a lot of newsy articles like, hey, what's going on? And who are these people? And, a short recap on 150 years of international interventions and meddling around in government, establishment of states in the Middle East. And it's a long-term mess that is riddled with a lot. And now it's spreading all over the world. The amount of anti-Semitism, the danger to Jewish people around the world is so high. It's
Yeah.
really just horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no good things to say about any of this. I, I think, my position is that I think it's completely consistent to say that the attacks by Hamas on Israeli people is absolutely horrible. The um, response by Israel has been absolutely devastating. Uh, the anyone who criticizes Israel getting labeled as anti-Semitic is um, unfair and egregious. The anti-Semitism is horrific. Man, Doug, I just feel like there is no, and this one feels like me personally, I just feel like there's just no good guys and bad guys in this one. Like
Yeah.
it is just tragic all the way around, and the way it's the way it's being used to foster division is really disappointing. Now, when you take a step back and kind of dehumanize it for a moment, which is difficult to do. We do that and like I look at it from a political perspective and think about like the very strange realigning of
Hmm.
political loyalties that are happening in this. Like this is one that's cutting in very strange directions, very weird directions, creating allies and strange bedfellows, as people line up either in unconditional, unqualified support for Israel or unconditional, unqualified support for the Palestinians. And and it is the ability to have some kind of middle ground of like, no, this is horrible all the way around, and
Hmm. Hmm.
innocent Israelis and innocent Palestinians should not be being killed. Like that. I
Yeah.
wish there was more. Wish there were. I wish that ground was more accessible.
Yeah. I'm with you. I mean, that's the thing. Look, yeah, finding good guys and bad guys anywhere and figuring out,
Yeah,
whose side you should be on is just folly nearly anywhere in the world.
yeah, yeah, for
But there
sure.
are but there are victims, and
Yes.
there's terror, and that also happens on both sides. So, and the thing about war that it prevents people from doing the things that they otherwise would want to do, which is to say, it's really, really tragic that children and other vulnerable peoples are being disproportionately harmed for us to accomplish these other goals. Like Israel can't say that. The United States won't say that. No one will say these things. We kind of talk around it rather than saying we're doing something that we think has to be done because we're out of other ideas. And it's wreaking havoc on individuals and generations of people that are going to be marred by war. To be clear, this area has been marred by war constantly for a very long time, but this is of a different scale. And this is just full on demolishing of parts of Gaza as it is in Ukraine. Like,
Yeah.
and this stuff, like, there becomes this, like, once we shift into war mode, then it's like, well, they have a right. And you just kind of lose perspective on being able to say, of course, it's horrible, the terrorist actions of October 7th, and unspeakable in some ways. I've watched news anchors literally turn to tears hearing reporters say what they've seen or videos that
Yeah.
they've watched. And what's going on in Gaza right now. You know, I think about Ilhan Omar. She had this impassioned plea last week saying, where is our humanity? Like, let's
Mhm.
just talk about all of it. But
Yes.
you get put in this box where it's like, well, they have the right to do it. And that's not the point. The point is whatever we're doing as the United States supporting or Israel acting is causing death and destruction and just unthinkable trauma and damage.
Yeah.
And if we could all own that, and this is going to go on until till people choose to stop it. So it's not as if and this I'm going to just berate this point for a moment.
Yeah.
It's not as if it's like we're just waiting for some natural cause to change. We're just waiting for the sun to rise. We're just waiting for spring to come. Like, no, we're not just waiting on it to be over. A set of conditions will be met, and then someone will say, we now need to stop the bombing. We now need to stop shooting people. That's what's going to happen. So that's just that is a fact of the matter, and the choice of when that is, whether it's today or day after tomorrow or a year from now, those are choices being made, and we shouldn't allow ourselves to get into a point of being like, well, I don't know, we're just waiting for the bread to bake. That's not what's happening, and rooting out Hamas, I don't even know what the standard for that is. And our
Yeah.
country knows, like,
Yeah.
how do you finally decide the
Yeah.
conditions on the ground have come to the point that you should now stop whatever military actions are. And look, there's people trying to draw the United States into this, and maybe these militias coming from Iran. So it could get horrible.
Yeah.
And it's causing people to not remember what's going on in Ukraine and on the continent of Africa where there's wars going on. But
Mhm.
every war is a failure of imagination and combined with some kind of wickedness. And at some point, people make choices to start them and to stop them. So
Yeah.
I just want to put
Yeah.
a tick mark in the box of human agency in all of this, and for us not to act like we're just being thrown around by the winds of war.
Yes. Yes. Well said. Well said. Now, as you know, all of this plays out, um, the United States political system is, drawn into it, obviously, and really poses first major situation for Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, who has apparently is bringing to the House a proposal for military aid to Israel, $14 billion worth of military aid. Um, Now, the interesting kind of little caveat with that is that Mike Johnson wants this $14 billion of aid to Israel to be quote unquote offset by $14 billion in cuts to the IRS. In particularly, the cuts come from the IRS is using money from the Inflation Reduction Act to build a system, an online system where people can pay their taxes, not using TurboTax or H&R Block or those kinds of things. And this proposal from Speaker Johnson um, specifically targets that program, that like
God.
online program of people being able to file their taxes directly with the IRS rather than having to pay for
Yeah.
an intermediary service. Um, that that program is specifically targeted by this. Doug, this is frustrating for a couple of reasons. One, because there is no opportunity for discussion about where the U.S. loyalty should be in the midst of this. It's just a fait accompli that we're going to send billions of dollars to Israel. It's frustrating too because Mike Johnson promised a clean bill for this,
Oh,
but it has been muddled with this political jab at gutting the Inflation Reduction Act, which was one of Biden's victories. It also is muddled with the politics of the IRS. And it's really frustrating, three, because we know this money doesn't need to be offset.
yeah, that's right.
That's not the way it works.
Right.
It's not, that's why we have sent billions of dollars in aid to the Ukraine. No
Yeah.
one ever asked, how are we going to pay for it? Because that's not how any of this works.
Because the federal government creates its own currency, and especially when it's spent in other nations, it's not going to impact inflation in the United
No,
States in the way that
no,
domestic spending is going to, unless
there
it's
is
being spent on U.S.
there
military
Yeah,
assets.
there's no need to say, okay, if I spend this $100, on Halloween candy, that means we're not going to have $100 to spend on, I don't know, groceries this month.
Mhm.
Like that's not the way it works.
With the federal
You
government.
don't
Yep.
have to
Yep.
take $14 billion away from the IRS so that we
Yes.
can send it to Israel. It's not the way it works with the
Yeah.
federal
But
government,
what they're
and it's
doing here is
stupid.
they're negotiating. He's not doing it for any purpose, economic purpose. He's doing it just as a negotiation tactic, which
Yeah,
is
yeah,
also just
yeah. It's
utter,
political theater.
utter, utter madness. Um, yeah, but look, as someone who has bought my health insurance through the exchange,
Hmm.
I'm not sure I really feel all that confident in how the U.S. government version of TurboTax is going to go.
This is
Uh,
true, because
so,
TurboTax is slick and the exchange
dude,
struggles.
dude, it is unbelievably slick, and
Yeah,
it keeps all
yeah,
your stuff. And it's like, how about last year and this year and bop, ba, da, da, bop, bop,
yep,
bop. And
yep.
you're now anyone who would use a system like that. Some people have more complicated tax situations, and we hope a lot of our listeners do. And if that's true, please head to votecommongood.com and find the donation link.
Smash that donate
If
button.
you're if TurboTax isn't sophisticated enough for you, please consider us in your
Here
charitable
here's how
contributions.
I always feel like, Doug. I always feel like TurboTax is not sophisticated enough for me, but I don't make enough money to not use it. Right? Like,
Totally.
I always
But
feel like, boy, I feel like I'm probably either leaving money on the table or, gonna get myself arrested,
yeah,
but
right.
I don't make enough money to like,
Yeah, if they're
hire
worried about
somebody to do
me.
this.
If they're worried about me. But I will say, hey, after we launched Vote Common Good, was the first year I ever got audited during the Trump administration, and I was a little shocked at that. Not a full
Mm,
audit, but like a thing on automobile expense. I was like, seriously? I think it was just coincidence and probably not karma or Trump interference. Hey, Dean Phillips,
Dean
my
Phillips,
my representative,
our friend. We had coffee with Dean Phillips in
yeah,
Washington, D.C.
a common good candidate in all the ways,
Yeah,
has
yeah,
decided that he should run for the Democratic nomination for president.
yeah.
It says that this is a news article from Fox News saying Dean Phillips' presidential campaign, quote, baffles fellow Democrats and the media, but he insists in multiple interviews he's not running against Biden despite challenging him for the nomination, which I do believe him on. He's not running against Biden. He's running because he says more than 50% of the United States population wants a choice. And
Hmm.
I totally get that.
Yep.
I wish, and you and I think are in the same camp on this, that every person who runs wouldn't take it personally, nor would the system, when somebody else
Yep.
challenges for that job. We should just normalize that and not make
Yep.
it into some sort of,
Yep.
House of Cards drama that
Yep.
someone wants to run. And look, is Dean Phillips going to get more Democrats to vote for him to be president than are going to vote for Joe Biden as the Democratic nominee? No,
No.
of course not. But would everybody feel better if they were making a choice? I think so. you
Yeah.
know, I mean,
Yeah. There's
and if Democrats would just get around it and be like, okay, we're just going to choose. And when we choose Joe, then here we go.
Yep.
Now, had Joe done the thing, which I thought he was going to do, which is say, I'm a one-term president and transitional president, that would have solved the whole set of things. But that's not what happened. And now this is the hammer held. And I look, Dean Phillips thing is probably not going to make it through January. I can't imagine. I mean, if Mike Pence and others have dropped on the Republican side, just too expensive to keep up anything of a viable presidential campaign. And Dean's, he has money at his disposal, but I don't know that you want to be spending it on a bunch of political consultants and, buying political stuff. So it makes no sense. Baffles me as well.
Yeah. So a couple of things. Uh, so Dean Phillips has been just getting absolutely destroyed on Twitter
Oh,
for his campaign. And as Kimberly notes in the comments, that Steve Schmidt is his campaign manager. Much of the Steve Schmidt, who helped to found the Lincoln Project, much of the
and was the one behind Sarah Palin being the running mate for
John McCain.
John McCain. So
Yeah.
don't consider the pedigree.
Yes. So it's interesting that much of the vitriol against Dean Phillips online has come from the Lincoln Project. So it makes me wonder if there's some bad blood there with a former team member. But so much of the criticism of Dean Phillips has been this is Dean Phillips hates democracy. His running for president makes it easier for Trump, and therefore he's
What?
anti-democratic. All of these anti-democratic, anti-democracy arguments about Dean Phillips, like it's time out. Democracy is when people vote on
Yeah.
who they want to be their leader. Having a choice is not anti-democratic. Listen,
No.
Joe Biden is the president now. He is not entitled to continue to be the president.
Right.
It is not his presidency. If he cannot make the case
Yeah.
to the majority of Americans in the needed electoral states to sufficiently secure the presidency, that's on him. It's
Totally.
if Joe Biden loses, it's not Dean Phillips' fault. It's not RFK Jr.'s fault. Nobody's vote is owned by anybody other than the voter. And if Joe Biden or any other candidate for that matter can't make the case to enough people of why
Yeah.
they should be voted for, that's on them. It's not Jill Stein's fault that Hillary Clinton lost. It's Hillary Clinton's fault that Hillary Clinton lost. If you can't make the case, that's on you. And if Joe Biden cannot make the case that he, with all of his experience, all of his expertise, all in his track record, if he can't make the case that he is more deserving of being the Democratic nominee for president than a relatively unknown nepo baby congressman who, frankly, I say this
Nepo
criticize.
baby.
Yeah,
Okay. Hot take.
all
Let
of
me
his
understand.
money's come from his parents, right? I'm big.
Is that what
And I
Nepo
like.
baby? What does Nepo baby mean?
Yeah, a nepotism baby. Wow,
Honest to goodness, I
what
don't know.
just happened
Did you
there?
see those? Did you see those balloons?
Yes, what happened?
I don't know.
What
The
was
other
that?
day, like a thumbs up floated by. I truly have no idea how that happened, what that is.
Wow.
I didn't. I wasn't touching anything. Just a series of party balloons went up. Maybe somebody makes it happen on the internets. I don't.
Why didn't it happen to me? Why did you solely get it? Anyway, so
I don't know.
I just think that listen, if Joe Biden and if being challenged in the primary
Yeah.
causes him to
Yeah.
lose, that's on him.
Yeah.
It's
Look,
on him.
if Joe Biden can't pivot Dean Phillips running for the Democratic nomination in the insider Democratic Party selection process, if he can't rally that into more success for him, then we have an ineffectual campaign afoot,
Yeah.
right? Come on,
Yes.
who cares? Not really. But should we be talking about alternative candidates? Yeah, for sure. And not act like look, if somebody's like, oh, I really wanted Dean Phillips to be the nominee and now he's not the nominee, so I'm now not going to vote for Biden. He's not running in the general election. He's running for the nomination. There are some people who will run in the general election, try to be on the ballot in certain states, and they could have an actual impact on a choice that a voter makes, because we don't, and I would say happily, use ranked choice voting in the in the United States. And I bring that up because Alex asks a question. Hey, Doug, have you changed your view on ranked choice voting? I think it has merit. Well, I'm not. I certainly, Alex, would never tell you not to believe it has merit. Just tell you, I think it's ridiculous. Because ranked choice voting, as each voter picks their top 3 people that they want to vote for, and it's just silly. It's just silly. It doesn't even produce anything better. It just nowhere does it actually make a difference. Anyway, so that's not our problem.
I think Alaska and Maine might be I don't know.
No, look, the independents who used to be endorsed by parties and then got unendorsed and then ran in a ranked choice voting and then won, they would have just used another mechanism had there not been ranked choice voting. It wasn't ranked choice voting, just simply happened to be the thing going on. It wasn't the reason, the cause for it. But we should do an entire hot take on ranked choice voting for someday. And it's not because I don't think that ranked choice voting, that the desires for more participation in our voting apparatus and in our country's democratic systems matter. Of course it does. But what it does is it gives more choices to the people who already vote. And our issue is not that people who already vote feel like they don't have enough choices. The issue is not enough people are engaging in the process and telling them, oh, okay, here's how it works. Vote for 3. And then if your first one doesn't win, then we roll it to the second one. And then if your second one doesn't win, then we roll it to your third one. And how happy are you actually going to be that it was your third one and not your first one? Because whatever bothered you the first time about only being able to vote for one, that's really all you got to vote for anyway, because the third one that you voted for was the one who was always going to take in 50% more. So it was just kabuki theater. My take. Maybe that's all we need to do on a hot take for ranked choice voting. But there are a couple of other things happening, Rob, and we'll stay on the speaker.
Yeah.
We'll stay on the speaker front over there at Fox News. They really got themselves riled up about about Jen Psaki saying that she was bothered by Speaker of the House and his statedly Christian nationalist views. And they have a big article here that says Jen Psaki bashes GOP Speaker Mike Johnson for being a religious fundamentalist, in quotes. And then the article has a quote that I pulled out from Mike Johnson, current Speaker of the House, saying, it's Mike Johnson, "I'm a Bible-believing Christian." Okay. Mm-hmm. Boy, I'd love to spend a little time with him there.
Mm-hmm.
Sell all your possessions and give them to the poor. Do you believe Jesus when he said that? Oh, or did he only say that to one person and not to all of us? But thou must be born again. He also said to one person, not all of us. But you take that one as a universal, and you take the sell your possessions and give them to the poor as a one-off.
Particular.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Let's keep going on our Bible believing part. I wish he was. I'm a Bible believing Christian. Yeah. That's why I do all kinds of stuff that I do right now. And then he goes on to say, someone asked me today in the media. Great. I mean, just the rhetoric style, right? Not a reporter asked me, someone in the media. You know how the media is. He's saying this, by the way, to other people in the media. Someone asked me today in the media, they said, well, it's curious. People are curious. what does Mike Johnson think about any issue under the sun? And I said, well, go pick up a Bible off your shelf and read it. That's my worldview. That is stunning. That is stunning. Let me just finish this thought. Can you imagine any of the Bible-believing Christians who are applauding that? What if Representative Ilhan Omar had said, what is my worldview? Pick up your Quran and read it. That's my worldview. They would freak out. So if they say, well, the Bible's okay to have as your worldview, the Quran is not, that's what we mean by a Christian nationalist perspective, because you default that the Bible is good and other things are not for these purposes of guiding your worldview as a lawmaker. So this kind of thing is all of our Christian nationalism work that we're have been up to is all of a sudden more front and center than ever. That the highest ranking position in the House of Representatives is held by someone who is a proudly stated Bible as my worldview Christian, and that's what should influence my role as a public servant in my job as a congressperson and as the Speaker of the House. Incredible.
Incredible and not shocking at all. I mean, listen, if you're shocked by this, you're not paying attention. This is not out of the ordinary rhetoric that would come in any evangelical church in America. This is the type of thing that you would hear said from a pulpit, said in a small group or a Sunday school class, said in a Bible college or a seminary. I mean, all over the country, you will hear people say things like, I mean, so what I was taught was that the Bible is the grid that you view the world through, not the other way around. Sure. I mean, it's the exact, like, it is. This is I think the reason why Jen Psaki is getting so much heat for her comment is it shows that she has no idea what is happening in the churches where millions and millions and millions of Americans are gathering every week. I mean, I hear Mike Johnson speak, and Mike Johnson could be on, the board of directors of any Christian school in America. He could be a deacon at any of the Baptist churches that I grew up going to. This guy he's right out of the pews. He is.
Yeah,
he's
sure. But Rob, I will say, but most people have believed that when it comes to your secular work, even people in that Bible believing as my worldview don't say, well, what's my view on chemistry as a chemist, or what's my view as a surgeon, or even what's my view as a school teacher is not limited to pick up your Bible. And that's what I think about any particular issue that could confront me in my job. Even Bible-believing Christians differentiate the facts that they know that are particular to their occupation and work in the world versus their worldview that permeates their approach to the world. Look, if you were hiring a custodian at a Christian school, and you said to them, hey, just want to talk to you about what you think about the cleaning. And they said, hey, pick up your Bible. That's going to tell you what I think about cleaning. People would be like, I need you to dig a little deeper here on how you think what we should do for the buffing system for the floors over by the gym. No, that's what makes this shocking. So I hear you that, yeah, there's a bunch of people who talk like this, but those same people who talk like this don't say this in job interviews. They don't say this when they're the CEO of a company. I promise you, the people running what's that craft store that
Hobby Lobby
are not standing in front of owners and investors and saying, I mean, all we do is just use the 66 books of the Bible and occasionally throw in a couple of the apocryphal books, and that's what we think about things. That's our accounting principle. Of course not. Like, this is the thing that's shocking about it, is that he's now confronted with what are your views on many issues that he says, this was a question asked to me, and I defaulted to the Bible. That is a version that I don't know. I think you're not talking about your standard evangelical church at all, that
I
someone
see.
would talk about in their professional capacity.
I
You think
think
so,
you
huh?
are. Yeah. I think, when in a summary, what do you, yeah, CEO, what do you think about leadership? My leadership principles come from the Bible. What do you think about, any of these? Like, yeah, I
No.
think yes, you're going to get those answers.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
No, they are well, look, they are fundamentally different. No one's getting that job. If you say to a CEO, what's your view of leadership and what's your view of the structure we have? Well, I have a biblical worldview on these things. You should look at the Bible. There's no board that's going to say, oh, exactly. That's what we're thinking. Because we're thinking 12 tribes, or we're thinking a selection of apostles, or we're thinking maybe we'd have some prophets, and we're thinking maybe.
Yeah.
No, they
Yeah.
wouldn't. This is
Yeah.
just virtue signaling for
Yeah.
most people. But I will tell you,
Are you
the
more
pro.
into the anointing with oil or the casting of lots to
So
determine?
are we going to only have the circumcised then be on the board here? Are we? Look, they're
Yeah.
not going to do that. And this is the problem: is that Mike Johnson took an approach that, frankly, is closer to the one that you're articulating, where he's like, "No, that's sufficient." And then I'm
Yeah.
not saying you believe that, but the number of people who believe that's sufficient is a teeny number. Now, if what he's doing is virtue signaling to those people,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's one thing. But he brought it up. It's
Right.
not even like he used it as an illustration to bring this up. It is deeply concerning. I mean,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is
This
look,
guy's a problem.
We have had conservative Christian leaders of this country for a very long time.
Yep. Yep.
No one has said this.
Yeah. This guy is a problem, and he is he is as we said last week, on Thursday last week, a kinder, gentler Jim Jordan. He's Jim Jordan with the jacket. But the the thing that is really scary to me is his ability to connect the with the I think there's a percentage of Christian nationalists out there that are less angry and
Mhm.
maybe more scared that,
There you go.
like,
Mhm.
um, that the Lauren Boeberts and the Marjorie Taylor Greens aren't going to be able to connect with because they kind of appeal to the angry Christian nationalist.
Sure.
I think Mike Johnson is going to appeal
Yeah.
to. I I haven't talked to my mother about him yet. I I'd lay $100 right now that my mom loves him.
Yeah. And look, I would
You
just
know,
suggest to you and anybody else listening, just say, do you think that should also be the response to people from other religious traditions? Do you
yeah,
think a
that's a
Jewish
great point.
lawmaker should say, I'm just going to stick with Torah? Do you think a Muslim leader should say, I'm going to stick with the Quran? That's my worldview. For my politics, for the job that I'm being asked to do here, the leadership that I'm going to give, I don't think
Yeah,
people would be comfortable with that. And I think it will shock the system when they're like, well, yeah, well, no, of course not. And the same thing with school prayer. Like, if you want to say that the
mhm,
school teacher gets to go lead school prayer with the football team, fair enough, if that's what you think. But then you mean also that a Muslim teacher should be able to lead prayer on the football
mhm.
field, right? And
Yep,
if you're like, no, seriously, yep, everybody, it doesn't make any difference. We don't, okay, then at
yep,
least you're being full throated about it. Probably not what most people who support that stuff mean. And look, I'm someone
exactly.
who sued my school district as a high school student for limiting my access to be Christian in my school in a way I thought mattered. But I also thought that people should be any kind of faith, and the school shouldn't be telling us not to do it. It's the whole point of freedom and sameness. Hey, one more before we go, Rob.
Yeah.
The Biden administration is going to be breathing a sigh of relief in that the auto workers union has come to an agreement on 3 deals, and going to get a little feather in the cap and 25% pay increases. And I think in some states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, this could actually go a really long way. He's going to,
Yeah.
or it's just going to not be a negative. And at this
Yeah.
point, if you're in presidential campaigns, that's what you're sort of looking for
Yep.
on a lot of levels, is things just not being bad.
When you're the incumbent, you don't want people in major unions out on strike
Yes.
during election time. That's not good.
And you want people in states where they make automobiles, which includes Georgia and Pennsylvania and Michigan,
in
to
Ohio.
be making in Ohio.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter. But at least the place, I mean, for the political outcome of anything, maybe the control of the Senate. Sherrod Brown. You want those people, you want the story around there being people are making more money.
Yep.
Just that's a
Yep.
that's a good thing. That's just nothing but
for
a good
sure.
thing.
Totally.
All right. Anything else we need to talk about? And it's curious. All of our comments today are on YouTube. Every one of them. I'm wondering if the stream is not working over on the other services for some reason.
While I was clicking around while you were talking at one point, I did see us streaming on X. So
yeah, we never get a comment from X.
Yeah, but we were streaming over there.
We were. Okay.
I don't know about Facebook.
When you were also doom scrolling during my rants, did you happen over onto the Facebook or Twitch platforms to see what was?
I did not. I was mostly just seeing if the Cleveland Browns have traded for a quarterback yet.
And
here at the trade deadline.
How we doing? Today's the date, the trade deadline?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry for your loss. Please send your.
About to announce a political campaign.
All right, I know you got to go. We've all got to go.
All
Happy
right.
Halloween, everybody. Stay safe out there, and please, whatever you do, don't eat those apples. They could be
razor blades in them.
with razor blades. All right. Hey, thanks to all of you on Facebook. Alex, Jim, Kimberly, Lovin' Life always. Oh my gosh, look at that person's name, Lovin' Life always. Mike, good to see you. There's a lot of comments all from our regulars over on YouTube, and we appreciate you so much. All right, and if you listen just on the podcast, keep your head up on that treadmill. You can lose your balance easy. All right, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, bye.